Hello and welcome to Philosophy 103, Critical Thinking. This is going to be an introduction video that walks you through all of the material in the syllabus. So, the official course description for this class is that in this course, students develop thinking and reasoning skills required for the critical assessment of information. This course focuses on practical methods applied to case studies from sources such as editorials, essays, propaganda, advertisements, and newspaper reports. To sort of summarize what that means, we're going to be looking at arguments that you interact with every day and other arguments from our society, and you're going to have the opportunity to assess these arguments and then learn how to make your arguments even better. So this course is going to be mostly focused on looking at arguments very closely. Now, this course has 4 outcomes. After successfully completing this course, students should be able to identify the premises and conclusions in arguments in order to critically assess readings from diverse sources, write clear, sympathetic paraphrases of arguments from actual discourse in order to clarify assumptions that people make when proposing conclusions, analyze passages involving complex arguments, multiple arguments, and counter-arguments in order to understand the complexities of communication, and you'll be able to write coherent, clear arguments and counter-arguments in order to effectively communicate your own point of view when engaging in conversation with others. So, as I said earlier, what we're going to be focusing on is assessing arguments, their quality, what makes a good argument, what makes a bad argument, and then following from this, you are going to gain a lot of ability to make your arguments better. So, the text for this course is a book called A Workbook for Arguments, A Complete Course in Critical Thinking by David Morrow and Anthony Weston. We're going to be using the 2nd edition for this book. Unfortunately, there recently was published a 3rd edition. Please don't get the 3rd edition. The bookstore bought the 2nd edition, so we're going to be using the 2nd edition for this course. If you're still waiting for the book to arrive, please reach out to me and I'll make the first part of the book available to you. So this is a picture of the 2nd edition. This is the book that we want. This is a picture of the 3rd edition, the green cover. This isn't the one we want. So again, hopefully you get this book, the yellow 2nd edition. That's what we're going to be using. Hopefully no one ended up with the 3rd edition. Okay, so my communication policy. I'm available through email or Canvas message, face-to-face through Zoom, or face-to-face in person. I live in Pendleton, but I also teach at the Hermiston Center and across all of the campuses of BMCC. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you're having any problems or you need any support. I'm always happy to communicate with you through email or in person or through Zoom. Whatever works best for you, please just let me know. And in most cases, I'll return a message within 24 hours and usually much faster. I check into Canvas multiple times a day on most days. However, there are some weekends where it may take me a little longer than 24 hours, particularly on Saturdays. Sometimes I don't check in, but otherwise I'm fairly available and I'm always happy to respond to any message to help you out in any way that I can. So now I'm going to go through the course requirements and then explain in detail each of these requirements. So this course has 5 requirements. They're each worth 20% of your final grade. So weekly exercises, discussion boards, weekly assignments, an argument paper, and the final exam. And as I said, each of these is worth 20%. Although, as we'll see with the weekly exercises, the discussion board, and the weekly assignments, each of these 20% are made up of a bunch of smaller assignments. So, the weekly exercises. Our book for the course is broken down into a collection of numbered rules and exercises that support each of these rules. So our weekly exercises will involve working through each of these exercise sets, and we're going to work through the odd-numbered exercises together. So I'm going to post a video where I work through all of the odd-numbered exercises, and this will give you the opportunity to have lots of practice working through them and then immediately getting the answer, and then you will be graded on all of the even exercises from each set. And the reason that I'm doing this is because all of the odd exercises, the answers for all of them, are in the back of our book. So I figured I could just put this into a video, and it would give us the opportunity to sort of work together on the odd number exercises. So discussion boards. This course is going to have a lot of discussion boards. I'm going to sort of try this out as a teaching method. Each discussion board will involve connecting an exercise set to an example from your life and then having the opportunity to interact with your classmates while discussing this exercise. So basically what it's going to involve is whatever the exercise set is, finding an example of this, and then working through it on the discussion board. And then it'll give your classmates an opportunity to reply and support and help you. Because there's going to be so many discussion boards, I only require one post and one response for each discussion board. So sometimes instructors will have you post 2 responses for each discussion board, but because there's going to be so many discussion boards in the course, I'm not going to require that. Only one post and one response per discussion board. So my grading policy for the weekly exercises and discussion boards, I grade these using what I call an 8, 9, 10 scale. This means that any reasonable attempt at the assignment will receive a minimum of an 80% of the available points. I grade this way because I don't want you to be afraid that your grade's going to suffer if you don't really know how to answer each question, or you're still trying to learn, or you want to try something out, or you want to push the boundaries on an assignment. I want to give you the opportunity and the space to do that without having to worry about your grade being hurt. And my feedback on each assignment will include a description of what you're doing well and what you can improve on to raise the score for next time. And generally speaking, on this part of the course, I grade fairly easily. So even though it's an 8, 9, 10 scale, for the most part, the grades are between 9 and 10. I sort of see this as a nice place where just by doing the work, you rack up a lot of points in a fairly straightforward way. But nonetheless, please look at my feedback. The idea is for it to help you out. So with the weekly exercises and the discussion boards, I have a particular late policy. I set due dates for each of these assignments to mimic an in-person course that meets twice per week. And my intention is to try to encourage you to spread out the work throughout the week. However, I don't enforce a late policy on weekly exercises and discussion boards. Instead, each week's assignment closes on Monday of the next week at 8 a.m. and then it's no longer accessible. So although I set due dates during the week, you can turn the assignments in at any time up to the Monday after that week at 8 a.m. Okay? And if you need extra time to complete the week's assignment for any reason, just let me know before Monday at 8 a.m. and I'm happy to give you more time. So basically, before the assignment is due, just reach out to me and let me know that you need more time. You don't have to tell me the reason if you don't want to. Just let me know you need more time. I'm happy to give it to you for any reason. However, if you contact me after the assignment is due, so after the Monday after at 8 a.m., I'm not going to give you an extension for any reason. Okay? Now, the weekly assignments. So every week there'll be an assignment that will require applying all of the lessons that we've learned from this week. The idea is to assess your ability to apply what we've learned to some sort of bigger assignment. Weekly assignments have a different grading policy and late policy than your weekly exercises and discussion boards that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But the idea here is with the weekly exercises and the discussion boards is to have the opportunity to learn the material, and then in the weekly assignments, you'll get the opportunity to apply what you've learned. So my grading policy for the weekly assignments, I will grade these assignments a little bit harder than the previous 2 assignments. However, My interest is in your ability to apply the lessons from each week and to show improvement over time, and I'm usually not that hard of a grader. That being said, I'm going to definitely give you room to improve and point out the things that you can improve on, but don't worry about getting a really bad grade on these. As long as you give it an honest attempt, you'll do just fine, and I think that is the case for the entire course. So the late policy for weekly assignments is different. They are still due by the Monday of the next week at 8 a.m. However, unlike your weekly exercises and discussion boards, it's possible to turn your weekly assignments in at any time during the quarter. However, for each day that they're late, they're going to receive a 5% penalty, up to 25% of the final grade. So what this means is that you have 5 days to turn them in. For each of those 5 days, you lose 5%, up to 25%. And then once you get to 25%, you don't lose points anymore. But it means that if you turn it in any later than those 5 days, the best that you can do is a 75%, and that's if you turn in perfect work. The point of this policy is to make it so that there's always value in completing the weekly assignments, even if you fall behind. However, remember that each of the weekly assignments is based on the skills that you learn through completing the weekly lessons. So it'll still be necessary to go through and work through the material for each week. Now, the argument paper and the late policy on this. The argument paper is going to be a short 3 to 5 page paper focusing on an argument from your life that matters to you. I'll distribute more information about this paper closer to the due date. And the late policy on this is similar to the weekly assignments. You also receive a 5% penalty for each day it's late, up to 25% of the final grade. There's also a final exam. It's going to cover material from throughout the quarter. A study guide will be given out before the final exam. There's not going to be any surprises. I don't like to surprise people on final exams. If you regularly take part in the class and you do your weekly work, the final exam is just going to be an extension of this stuff. It's going to be pretty straightforward. And you don't need to go to a testing center to take the final exam. Okay, so I'd just like to conclude by thanking you all for taking this class. I really do appreciate it. This is the first time that I've taught this class online. It's the first time it's been taught at BMCC since perhaps 2010, so I'm very excited to bring it back, and I really appreciate all of you signing up. I think the class is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me.